Hello, I'm Eric Deaton, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate in the state of Ohio to replace retiring George Voinovich. There's many reasons I decided to run for this office, but most importantly, I don't want to wake up in 20 years and find the American dream gone, our constitutional republic on the ropes, and our many God-given rights squandered. I choose to stand up now to fight for my great nation, the nation I grew up in, so that I know I did everything in my power to save it. You see, I want to save this country for myself and my children. For all of you. I view the American dream as being larger than the United States. I believe the American dream started with the discovery of the New World, when our ancestors came forward to this new continent to seek escape from religious persecution, the rights to own private property, and the rights to practice religion as they saw fit. The American dream is bigger than owning a big house, a fancy car, and having a portfolio of stocks and bonds. The American dream is an idea that one can seek their own destiny, an idea that one can have private and intellectual property that they create and be able to keep the fruits of their labors. The American dream cannot be allowed to die. I fight for that American dream for myself, for my children, your children, our posterity, and for every man and woman who's laid their life down fighting for our country these last 200 years. See, our founders realized that the political spectrum ran from tyranny on one end to anarchy on the other. They sought to find a government that could keep us from swinging on the pendulum between these two. They realized that if they placed us firmly in the center of this political spectrum, we would be a stable, long-lasting nation. They realized our government had to be big and strong enough to protect our many ample God-given rights, and not so strong that it could take away those same rights. They wrote the Constitution and gave us a constitutional republic that protected these rights. And 2 years later they gave us the Bill of Rights. Between those two, we had an anchor placing us in the center of that spectrum, and we had the chains of the Bill of Rights binding us to that anchor in such a way, as long as the citizens of the country fought to protect their rights and the government respected those rights, we could stay balanced in the middle and become a productive, long-lasting civilization. Our country has lasted longer than any other nation currently on the planet. We're heading on 230 years under a constitutional republic. But it falters with socialism taking over. See, socialism is not what made our country great. What made our country great was that innovation that came from people being able to keep the fruits of their labor, being able to work hard and keep what they created themselves and spend and invest it as they saw fit. Socialism began in the Jamestown colony because the financiers for Jamestown wanted the people to come here and work for them. They wanted them to not own property, but to be able to export the many raw materials found in the New World. It didn't work in Jamestown, and in the Plymouth colony in 1620 it wasn't working well either. But after socialism was abandoned for a system of capitalism, a system where people had their own property and had to fight for themselves, so that the strong who wanted to work and get ahead could do so, and those that didn't want to work hard had to do just enough to feed themselves and keep a roof over their head. Our founders looked at this past 200 years before they wrote the Constitution and realized that this was a good, great freedom to be able to own property and to be able to invest in one's future. They realized that socialism had not worked and had been a failure, and had been a failure in Europe, where it had taken thousands of years to build civilizations in great cities. They knew that our country needed fast growth to harness the raw materials and the vast tracts of land that the new continent had to offer. So after our Constitution and our Bill of Rights were written, growth took off. Soon we had new farming techniques and equipment that could feed the masses. We ushered in the Industrial Revolution. We had interchangeable parts, the assembly line, mass production of the automobile and the airplane. Soon came atomic energy and computers. You see, our country created all of this from 1789 to 1969. At the foundation of our country Our ancestors who came here on wooden ships, struck a wooden plow into the ground pulled by an ox. They rode horses to visit and to travel the country. But in 180 years, our nation, our creativity, our innovation, our hard work and perseverance paid off. And we placed men on the moon, men wearing American flags on their shoulders, men that made a leap for mankind that spanned 5,000 years. You see, at the foundation of our country, the technology was no different than 5,000 years before in ancient Middle East. But the United States pushed the world. They gave the world new medicines, new technologies, shorter work weeks, an ever-expanding sense of pride in our accomplishments, and better living for generations to follow, one after another. The American dream is about capitalism and hard work, private property ownership, and individual rights ingrained in us by our Creator for simply being born in His image. This dream must be protected and cherished. For in the 30s we started Social Security, and it began the downfall of our country. Medicare and Medicaid, many socialized welfare programs, and a government that keeps taking the power of the individual states and the many ideas they could have and making us all conform to the one idea that the federal government gives us. I intend to fight for the American dream, and I intend to fight for the things that made our country great. We need to return the power to the states that has been usurped by the federal government. We need to start protecting our individual rights and not letting our government trample them as they have been doing for many decades. It is important that the American dream lives because we are a beacon to the world, a beacon to every individual out there seeking the same freedoms that we take for granted, but that our ancestors sought also. We need to protect this dream so that legal immigrants can come here and have a better life. There's a great variety in our country from many cultures. I respect that and I enjoy that. We should never shut our borders off to those wanting to come here legally. But we should control this flow of immigrants and know where people are and know that they are getting the right lessons and the right education and how to become Americans with a common language and common goals. I will fight for our country. I will vote for only constitutional legislation in Washington. I intend to have a Senate staff made up completely of Ohio citizens. Those without an Ohio driver's license need not apply. I will do things different in Washington, and I will be a leader to the people of our country and the people of my state. We need a statesman. Statesmen in Washington to represent our beliefs and ideas. People that will uphold their oaths to the Constitution and protect it dearly, even with their life if needed. And I hope that you will all choose to vote for the best person for this Senate seat this year in Ohio. I have no doubts that I will win this seat if you do just that. Thank you very much for your time. God bless you, and come see me in the near future and I'll give you a lesson in liberty.